So hello and welcome. I'm Sarah Seidelman, and this is one of the Hummingbird interview series where I interview amazing coaches and different people who are amazing and fantastic and introduce you to them. And so today I am so excited to bring to you Sarah Vermunt, who is an author, and she is amazing, and her website is called Careergasm. And her tagline is, Sarah, maybe remind me of your tag, but it's like something about finding feel-good work.
Yeah, find your way to feel good work.
Yes, and Sarah and I met a few years ago in California at a Martha Beck gig, and Sarah was teaching some creative writing, and I just loved her style and how she presented it, and we got to be fast friends. And I'm going to let her talk and introduce herself and tell you a little bit about what she does, but we both had the experience of being in a job and working at it for years and then suddenly waking up one day or over a gradual period of days and realizing this isn't what I want to be doing anymore, and had to struggle with that and find feel good work again. So Sarah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, so like you said, you and I have so much in common because we were both in fields that were starting to not feel so good. And actually, we were both in very rigorous, serious academic fields. You were a doctor. I was a professor at a business school. And I'm not sure how things sort of shook down for you, but for me, I really hated conducting research. I found it really isolating. I loved teaching, loved my students, loved the areas that I was teaching in. So organizational behavior, workplace psychology, that's my jam. But about 80% of a professor's work is actually research and about 20% is teaching. So I loved 20% of my work and hated most of my work. And I did what most people do when they don't like their job. I don't know if this happened to you, but stuff had to get kind of ugly before I was willing to quit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember working on some research one day in the middle of a crowded Starbucks, and I had like a straight up, what you might call a breakdown, like a uncontrollable crying, shaking moment where like I just broke and I couldn't do the work anymore. And I gave notice that day that I was leaving.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. But I think that happens to a lot of people. It's just, you try to push through and push along and do what's practical, stay on the path you've chosen. And I had sort of had that underlying feeling that I was in the wrong thing for at least 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I was in a lot of denial about having to change paths because I'd invested, like most people, I'd invested a lot in the path that I was on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can sure relate. And I've gone to medical school and residency and all that good stuff. You're like, well, I'd be an idiot to not keep doing this. Like, it's finally, I've done something and I'm there. Yeah. I think a lot of us too, the idea of quitting would be fine if somebody would tell us what it was we were supposed to do. But the problem is when you're super confused and in that point, when you're at the breaking point in the Starbucks or wherever you are, it's like, but you don't know what it is you're supposed to do. You would have done that, 2 years ago if somebody had told you. And that process is so confusing. So talk about, like, if I had been your client, because like in 2009, 2010, I was miserable and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm really unhappy. I don't like most of the tasks I'm doing at work anymore, but yet I better keep going because, I've got 4 kids to put through college and I don't really see a way out. What are some of the things you would, suggest to clients? Because I know that people who are watching this either are in that scenario or know somebody who is and might want to tag them and share this video with them.
Yeah. Like the scary thing about thinking of leaving one path is usually that you don't know what the next thing is. So that's actually what everyone I work with struggles with. It's like, they're intelligent, practical people who would totally be willing to work hard and even like address their fear and everything if only they knew what the thing was, right? Yes. So the starting place that I actually use for the people I work with is we start making some like general lists that I call the hell yes list and the hell no list. Sometimes I call them the hissy fit list and the squeals of delight list. And basically I have people talk me through the things they hate about their current job or have hated about past jobs. They can be tasks, they can be certain types of people you hate being around, certain types of environments you hate being around. And then we sort of do an opposites list too for the types of things that light them up, make them feel brighter, a little more joyful, the things you do where you lose track of time. And so we start with some very sort of like general, I don't know, like organic things that don't point to a particular career right away. So the process I take people through is, if you can imagine like a big funnel, and session by session, we throw these career ingredients in the funnel, and then we get more and more focused and refined on what those things turn into until we have a couple of shiny gems for them to consider. But it's such a muddy, mucky process, sort of just murking around looking for clues. And it can actually be a pretty frustrating process for people, because most of the time when people come to me, they've already been struggling with hating their job for 2 or 3 years and trying to figure it out. And so they just want to know what the thing is.
Right.
But I am a really, really big believer in clarity before strategy. And so we have to sort of like wait around a little bit until things emerge and present themselves. And that's always pretty uncomfortable if you want the answer immediately, because it doesn't emerge immediately. I usually work with people for a process of 2 or 3 months. At the end of that process, it emerges, but it's not in the first session. Yeah.
And to have somebody to kind of hold your hand through that is really helpful, because otherwise it's a kind of a lonely path. And I love what you say that, it's a very muddy process. And sometimes a lot of my clients have a lot of different passions. So often their career will not be some standard like firefighter or, whatever. It's like it involves facets of many different things. Like for myself, I love to do, online video. I like to be creative, so I do a lot of creative, artwork with my own work. And I also love to do shamanic work. And I also love to do travel. So I do retreats, and it's all these, elements that make it fun for me, and make it be a good fit. But like nobody could have sat down and told me what you're going to do is this,
Can you imagine if someone had said that to you? You would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? Really?
I would have been excited. Like, that sounds good, but I have no idea how to do any of those things.
Exactly. Yeah. And the how is an interesting thing to talk about too, because the type of career coaching I do for people, a lot of career coaching focuses on the how. So, like, here's how we fix up your resume, or, this is what a proper LinkedIn profile looks like, and all like the traditional corporate helpful things if you want to move in a certain direction. But there's not a lot of work out there where people are helping you with the what before the how. So one of the things I help people with is press pause on how until we know what the what looks like, of like what they're actually looking for. Because I find a lot of the people that I work with, and I think just people in general, we get so freaked out about not knowing how to have things that sometimes when you start asking your question, well, how do I do that? I don't know how to do that. Sometimes you push down the thing that you want because you don't know how yet. And so focusing too much on how can actually suppress you figuring out what it is you actually want.
Like you had the client you talked about in a blog who was in corporate America, who was like, I want to be a cheesemaker, but I could never make money and still have my precious iPhone, which we all know, like if you're not making money, you probably don't have any business having an iPhone, But of course, like, how could she know if she'd never really sat down and learned, well, what do cheesemakers do? How do they do it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I basically help people like explore their options before they take them off the table. And you can't jump into the how too quickly until you sort of know that your compass is pointed in the right direction, because, at least for the people I work with, they're very savvy. They can probably build a strategy in any given direction. But like, you don't want to be building a strategy south if you want to be going north, right?
Right.
So that's why it's a murky process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. I've lived in that murk.
So have I.
And you
I
have
think that's
to.
probably why we do the work we do. We can
Yeah.
relate. Yeah.
So let's say the person has this wonderful, like, hell yeah list. Mine would be like walking in nature and being with people and doing transformational spiritual work. And like, but I'm still working this full-time job and slammed to the wall with like kids' activities and whatnot. Like, how would you, maybe the person is starting to get some clarity about the things they do love, but they're not sure. Like, what would you suggest to them as to proceed to further kind of clarify all that, or to learn more about those things?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. One of the things I have my clients do, at least, is explore their curiosities a little bit. Because if you think about it, anybody who ever became passionate about something was curious about it first, right? So it's not like we're born with these innate, like, mad passions. You kind of have to go exploring a little bit first. So I have them kind of explore their curiosities without needing to attach those things they're exploring to an immediate income, because it usually doesn't happen that way right away. Like, you have to explore it a little bit first. And then something that we also do, and you can do this fairly early in your exploration stage, is look for the little intersecting points for the things that are on your ingredients list, right? So I actually have my people do some brainstorming around, okay, without needing to know how to do any of this stuff, you don't know how to be X, how to be Y, how to do this job, how to do that job, how to create business X. What are some ways that you could imagine these various points intersecting? So we start with imagination, and we just sort of pat our fear on the head while we're doing that, because it doesn't go away. Your fear is really going to spike when you're exploring that stuff, because it's telling you that you're an imposter and you don't know what you're doing and there's no possible way.
And everybody would like it.
Right. But I have them look at the various intersecting points for that. And I will tell you, that is the part of the work I do with people where their fear spikes the most and they start feeling the most resistance, is in this exploring stage of the many ways that they could have their desires intersect. And I think it's because, again, they don't know how to do it yet, but also sometimes I think it feels personally threatening to explore something new.
And the closer we get to the dragon's cave,
yes,
right, the more terrifying it is. And that's where your treasure lies, I think.
That's right. Oh my God, I love the way you say that. Yeah. And I talk about dragons a lot too. And I always say, you know, you're not supposed to slay the dragon. You need to befriend the dragon, and you need to learn to ride the dragon. Yeah. Because it's not going away. And it's interesting, you know, because I'm a career coach, sometimes people who don't know the depth of the work that I do think it's going to be sort of like a transactional advising kind of process. And usually once we get started, people talk about like, oh, this is going a lot deeper than I thought it would. Because we kind of have to go there, because there's so much emotional stuff that comes up with exploring these changes. Because it's not just like, you're not just exploring a passion, you're exploring something that, you know, helps you pay your mortgage and buy groceries for your kids or whatever. It's a high stakes thing.
And often, you know, speaking from my own experience, maybe we've been wounded before in our previous work, and that we have to kind of heal from that or face that same wounding again to go back out in the world to do the one thing that we do want to do now. And we're clear on that. And it's like, sometimes we didn't expect that, and that can be challenging.
Yeah. You get a little gun shy if you've tried to put something out there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, these are all just such great ideas. So for those of you who are struggling out there, take some of these, grab your journal and sit down and write a hell no, never again list. Or tell me your names of your list. Those sounded so fun. The hell yes, the hell no list, and the hissy fit list and the squeals of delight list. I actually have a free little course people can take at careergasm.com that will take them through those lists. It's totally free. Awesome.
But it's like, there's like 5 little workbooks that you'll get, you know, one every week that'll sort of take you through some of the exercises. And it's meant just to get you thinking creatively about career stuff. And I'm a little bit different than most career coaches. I'm a little bit cheeky. I'm a little bit irreverent. I don't think in a linear way. I'm pretty creative. And I actually think that like really kind of weird, wonky, creative exercises can be great to help you figure out this career stuff, because I think we tend to think of careers kind of like we have blinders on. And sometimes coming at the question of what do I want from like weird little angles can help remove those blinders. I know that's true for me. You get like locked into a certain way of thinking.
Yes, I concur with that massively, because I know like most of my clients are overachieving, brilliant, smart, intellectual people, and tend to have made decisions very successfully from the head. But often at this certain point in your life, you come to a crossroads where it's like you can only navigate this from here or from your right brain. And to do that, we often need to bring up funny things. So, which brings me to beasties, which is why I love working with them so much. But is there a beastie that you really love that, you know, speaks to you, or one that you've seen lately that's helped you to kind of understand something about yourself?
Yeah, so I've actually had a spiritual experience with a mountain goat.
I think I remember you telling me about this, but it's been a while.
Yeah, it was on a hiking trip that I met Max, my mountain goat. He was waiting for me after I came back from a long hike that I emerged out of the darkness, actually, and I met Max. And I think Max and I have a lot in common, actually, and that's why he was there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love a mountain goat. I love when, I don't know if you've seen that on National Geographic, they have this marvelous photo. It's like basically a sheer rock wall, and there's like this much of a ledge, and there's two goats up there just like having conversation, like no big deal. Like most of us would be terrified to be standing on that, but they're so sure-footed and they're so grounded and so balanced. So I admire that about goats.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So yeah, actually, since reading your book, Beasties, and I even got your app before I got your book, I have been paying attention to just little connections with the animal world. I also have a real affinity for blue jays specifically. Blue jays are showing up for me a lot.
Those are really interesting.
I don't know anything about blue jays. Can you tell me something about
Well, they do. They have something interesting where they will, they're really good imitators. So they will, if they want, they can make a crow sound, or they can make a different bird song. They can make a sing-song bird song, or they'll do things to kind of imitate. So I always think, as creatives and artists, like we're always kind of, as we begin something new, we start like, I was telling Sarah, I'm writing a fictional book. Well, I'm like, what is my inspiration for that? And, I started playing around with like imitating the voice of, something, another young adult fiction writer. So yeah, I think that's one neat thing I know about blue jays.
Oh, cool. Have you
and they're very saucy. I mean, they have this sort of bodacious personality. They come out and they're bold, they're not like, they're not like a wren kind of quietly,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this book that you just made me think of called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. It kind of talks about this points of inspiration thing that you're talking about.
Yeah. And I always think as a writer and as an artist, like everything that's ever been said everything's already been said. It just hasn't been said the way you're going to say it, or the way I'm going to say it. And so everybody's really stealing, and kind of the difference between, you obviously plagiarism, we would want to do that, but there is inspiration. We're always being inspired by each other.
Yeah. And he talks about borrowing and adapting as sources of inspiration, right? Which is exactly what you're talking about, and the way I find inspiration as well. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you tell us where to find you, and where, if people want to get together with you and maybe get some deep career coaching from you, where they might go? And let me just say, her books, her 2 career books, which she's going to show you in a minute, are so marvelous because they are salty. I mean, they're packed with good, wholesome, salty language, which is so fun. And like, I gave the Career Rookie, she's going to show you, to my son, and he spent like 10 minutes as we were giving them as Christmas gifts, and he's like, this is like not what I expected. It's it's really fun. And I'm like, yeah, because it's just so wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. It means a lot, actually, that you trusted it to give it to your son. Like, that's about the best testimonial a person can give, is to say, like, here, kid, you need this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you and I both have that in common. We're pretty salty.
We're behaving ourselves on this right now, but
I know. Yeah. But yeah, people can find me at careergasm.com and at Careergasm on Instagram. And that free little course I mentioned that people can take, I actually have like a whole bunch of free resources at careergasm.com. There's a little tab for free stuff.
Awesome.
I don't have the book Careergasm with me, but my first book was called Careergasm, Find Your Way to Feel Good Work. And that is a great book if you know you want out of your current job, but you don't know what the heck you do want. So it's to help you find clarity about getting what you want. And the new book, which is out in April, I'll show you, is called Career Rookie. This is the one you gave to your son, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm so happy you did that. So this comes out very soon, and it's basically a guide to help you if you're a student or you're just getting out of school or you're in your 20s and you feel like you still don't know what the fuck you're doing. I mean, really, I know we can go through our whole careers feeling like that, but the first half of the book helps you figure out what it is you want. And then the second half of the book is helping you will like actually build a strategy to go after it.
Yeah. And it speaks to, I think, the insane pressure that if you're 20 to 24 years old, you are feeling maybe right now, because it's like, figure it out. And it just diffuses that bomb right out of the door, out of the gate. Like the first chapter is just so awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's one of the only career books, and I was intentional about this, where we also talk about the anxiety of starting your career. Which I think you have to talk about. It's not enough just to give people some like helpful tips. You gotta like acknowledge the anxiety.
Yeah. The weight of the world is on many of their shoulders right now.
Yeah,
I think. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
thank you for writing that book.
Thank you for supporting it.
Well, it's been a joy to talk with you, Sarah, and we will look forward to chatting again sometime in the future.
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah.
So guys, go to careergasm.com and get some feel-good work tips, because you're gonna really enjoy it once you get there. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, bye.